Hey y'all, today I want to share with you something a little bit different. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while, I just didn't. That is sharing with you my fragrance collection. For me as a viewer, I find these videos quite polarizing. Sometimes I'm interested, sometimes I'm not, and for me I find the videos I'm interested in are the ones that kind of resonate with me as a fragrance consumer. And kind of the overall feeling I have for my fragrance collection is I like things that in general trigger some type of memory. I've mentioned in other videos I've got fragrances that remind me of my mom, remind me of my granddad, remind me of my great grandma. I like fragrance that trigger a memory, and those are the ones I tend to have in my collection. Without further ado, let's get right into this video. Up first, let's talk about some of my old school fragrances, things that I've been wearing for the longest. The first one is actually a repurchase. I purchased this bottle about 1.5 years ago, and before that I went through 2 bottles. This is the Estee Lauder Sensuous Nude, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the Eau de Parfum. There was an Eau de Toilette when I worked for Estee Lauder, and that is the version of this I love the most. Before that, I used this one, and when I worked for Estee Lauder, Sensuous wasn't one of my favorite fragrances, and then this flanker of Estee Lauder Sensuous released, and I really love this. It's a slightly tropical beachy scent, but it has some elements of vanilla and musk, and it sets quite close to the skin, making this more of a skin scent. I really love this because it will forever remind me of my very first job in makeup, which was working for an Estee Lauder counter. So I really love this, and for me this is more of a summer daytime scent, or like on vacation if I want some for a dinner patio date. This is something I really enjoy. So this is classic summer scent that just holds really great memories for me. The next one I have is also a repurchase. This is my 3rd bottle. Sadly, I don't wear it much anymore because even though I love it, it triggers headaches for my husband, so I don't reach for it. And that is Bleu de Chanel, and you can see my bottle is a little dusty. I should probably clean this before I started the video, but I just kind of grabbed it. Here we go, but that shows you how often I reach for this. My very first bottle of Bleu de Chanel I got back when I worked at Estee Lauder. I worked for Estee Lauder in a little southern department store called Blanc. Fragrance and beauty were in the same little department, and they were having a contest I didn't even know about at first. Whoever sold the most Chanel fragrances for the store got a free full-size bottle, and I happened to win the contest, and that was how I got my first bottle of Bleu de Chanel. I ended up winning that contest twice when I worked for Belk, and I got 2 bottles of Bleu de Chanel, and then this bottle I purchased right after I moved to Canada in 2017, and since then I've used just over half of the bottle. I really enjoy this, but my scent preference has changed. I now find this a little too heavy, and my overall kind of direction of fragrance, as you'll see as we get through the collection, has shifted. So with my husband not being able to tolerate this scent and my preference is changing, I don't reach for this as much. Whenever this runs out, I probably won't repurchase it, but I've got some great memories with this. The fragrance that will remind me of working at Sephora, and this is not even in production anymore, so that's why I don't use it, because this one, the next one, I purchased them around the same time when I worked at Sephora, and they just have so many memories, so many great memories of my time working at Sephora, meeting one of my best friends who is still one of my closest friends now, and that is the Elizabeth and James Nirvana Black. Oh my goodness. This was kind of like my gateway into more powdery scents. For anyone unfamiliar, Elizabeth and James was a brand by Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. Elizabeth and James was derived from their brother and sister, so we have Elizabeth Olsen and James Olsen. Nirvana Black is more of it has almost like a violety powder scent. There is some musk into it. Once again, it's not a very close sitting scent, so it does have some projection, but it's very sensual, intimate smell. It's got a sexiness to it that I really enjoy. And when I worked for Sephora, oh my goodness, over that time span, I went through 3 bottles, and then I purchased this right before I moved to Canada, and then shortly after I no longer saw this in stores, so I've been savoring it. Nirvana Bourbon. Smelling this, it takes me back to the first time I smelled this. When I saw this online, I was not interested because I'm not a huge alcohol fan. Like, if I do drink, it's generally very watered down and very fruity. Bourbon's not something I like at all. It's just I can't tolerate it. Actually, I remember how I smelled this in store. There was, right after we put the display out, someone had accidentally dropped a bottle and it broke, and I smelled it and I'm like, oh my goodness, the smell is intoxicating. Which, funny, bourbon intoxication. But oh my goodness, it has a very warm, sweet smell. There's almost like an element of like kind of caramel to it. It's got a little bit of that powderiness to it. It does have some musk into it. It does have more projection when you wear it, and as it kind of warms up with your body throughout the day, it does project. This was a favorite for fall date nights when I was younger, and oh, I love this. I am right at halfway and I still pull this out and wear this here and there. Thankfully, fragrances have about a 7-year shelf life if they're kept in a cool, dry place. And I have always kept fragrances in my closets which never have a window. They're not exposed to heat, so they stay well preserved. And I love this fragrance so much, and I wish Elizabeth and James would come back out with their fragrances. And I purchased this fragrance from the Sephora at Short Pump Mall in Richmond, Virginia. I will never forget that. I was on the way to Colonial Williamsburg to meet my family, and then I saw the roadside for like Richmond this way, and I'm like, okay. And I drove by and I was just casually smelling scents, and a sales associate at that Sephora suggested this one to me, and I was like, Cannabis Santal, what? Oh, wow. I have not worn this in a very long time, and I don't know if I could ever wear this again. This is very, very strong. My little experience with Cannabis, this doesn't smell anything like it. You can definitely pick up on the Santal though. And if I'm not mistaken, this also has some notes of chocolate in it. It's a very strong scent. In a way, it does remind me of Polo Green, which is a fragrance I never really got on board with, and it was just way too strong, way too musky. It had a very kind of heavy, overtly masculine scent, and I used to wear this a lot. I mean, I used over half the bottle, and now I can't. Great memories, but I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. Fast forward to 2018, started working at Nordstrom Canada, and that is when I got my second Tom Ford fragrance, and that is Santal Blush. I really enjoy this. It is so lovely. This does have a different packaging now, if I'm not mistaken. It was in a black bottle after it was in this bottle, and now it's like a semi-clear bottle with like a brownish label. This is really nice. It's a very warm, spicy scent. If I'm being totally honest, I bought it because it had blush in the name, and if you've been around my channel before, blush is my favorite makeup product, and the color pinky blush is like one of my favorite things. It's got some warm spiciness to it. I haven't used it a ton because it's a very, very powerful scent. This is one spray up and at an angle and like spritz through it. It's very, very strong, and if I'm not careful, it will give me a headache. This is a really lovely fragrance. Let me see. I remember my first Tom Ford fragrance I either purchased in 2013 or 2014, and if I'm not mistaken, it was at the Saks in Manhattan, or whatever store was like right across from the underground Apple store. It was a department store. I can't remember. On that trip, I bought Tobacco Vanille, and when I was at Nordstrom, I was gonna buy another one because now I had a discount, and Tom Ford fragrance prices were still high, but at least there was a discount I could get. And I went back to smell Tobacco Vanille, and it was just way too powerful, too musky for my taste. And I ended up going with this one, and even though I don't wear it, I like the memories and got some time to enjoy this fragrance. Now we get into the fragrances that really start triggering memory. The first one is sadly discontinued. Maison Margiela Replica, and this is called Lipstick On. It says the province and period is Chicago in 1952. Fragrance description is night blush with rice powder. Style description, female fragrance. I don't care if it's listed as female, masculine, whatever it is. If it smells good, I'm gonna buy it. Oh my goodness, it does have that lipstick smell. It reminds me of the old school Estee Lauder lipsticks in the gold kind of like ribbed packaging. But more than anything, this reminds me of my great grandma. As a kid, we would always pick her up on the way to church on Sunday mornings, and I now know that the fragrance she wore was called White Shoulders. This just, it smells like my grandma, and my goodness, my grandma passed away like in 2011 or 2012, and I mean, that's been a decade, and oh my goodness, it's one of those things that it makes me kind of feel like emotional smelling it, because I spent a lot of time with my great grandma as a kid, and smelling this, it just reminds me of being in the backseat of my grandparents' car and then my grandma getting in and smelling her fragrance to church, after church, and then even if we went out to like lunch or something later in the day after church, getting in the car and you would still smell her fragrance, and it's just, it's so lovely. It's just, it's such a wonderful, wonderful memory, and it will forever hold a very special place in my heart. I like to layer it with this next fragrance. This is one that a friend of mine actually gifted me that I think she got for free when she worked at Nordstrom, and then she didn't like it, so she gave it to me, and she originally gave it to me to give to my husband. My husband wasn't a fan. Anyway, that is this one from Jo Malone. This is the English Oak and Hazelnut Cologne. This reminds me, oh my goodness, of my granddad. So my granddad is my great-grandmother's son, so she reminds me of this, he reminds me of this, and growing up, and I think even to this day, he always wore Estee Lauder's Lauder for Men, and that's still around, but oh, this just smells like my granddad. And once again, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents as kids. Like when my mom and dad were working over the summer and for some reason they couldn't get off work, I would go on vacation a lot with my grandparents, and my granddad always smelled like this. And even now when I go home, he always smells like this. Like Sundays, whenever they come over to visit, when they get back from church, he will leave a trail of Estee Lauder for Men wherever he goes, and it just smells like my granddad. And layering these two together, it just smells like my grandparents' car on the Sunday morning as a kid. Such a warm, comforting, happy memory fragrance pairing. This is also one I purchased when I was working at Sephora, because back then I had a small size. And this one I actually got most recently during this year's Nordstrom anniversary sale. One of my favorite scents. It's a candle I have in my house at all times. And this is the Jo Malone Peony Blush Suede. Oh my goodness. It is such a light, feminine, sweet floral, very, very welcoming. In a way, it reminds me of my mom, that overall essence that she has. My mom isn't a huge fragrance person. She has a bottle of Gucci Flora that I got her, I don't even remember how many years ago. But as a kid, she wore Estee Lauder, yes, White Linen or something like that, or Linen Breeze. It was like white with a green design on it. And even though this is completely different, it still reminds me of her. It just has that comforting smell, and it reminds me of my mom, and I love it on myself. And I often layer it with something else. And I believe the notes in this also, it's like peonies, and I think it has apple in it. It does have a little bit of that soft muskiness. It's another scent that sits very close to the skin. Really enjoy it. And I often pair it with this one, and I've got these two samples, and these samples take me so long to go through, so I've never had to buy a full size, but I like to layer it with the Jo Malone Wood Sage and Sea Salt fragrance. It's a clean aquatic scent. There is a little bit of a woodiness to it. It doesn't smell too masculine, it's not too feminine, it's not a very loud scent. It's a very kind of soft, summery scent. It's not my favorite. I've tried wearing it on its own, and on its own, it gives me that kind of scent memory of Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue, or Armani Acqua di Gio, or what was that other one? MAC Turquotic. In general, I am not a huge fan of those kind of fresh, aquatic, clean scents. In my mind, they always smell like Windex, and I don't like them, but something about this I like layered with the Jo Malone Peony Blush Suede. Even though I don't like those more like clean aquatic scents on myself, I love how they smell on other people. Like my husband Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino. I cannot stand that smell. Like smelling it in the air, smelling it on myself, just instant like game over. But if he smelled it on himself and I like walk by and I smell him, I'm like, oh, you smell really, really good. It's so weird how different scents act for us. Now we have a scent that one of my friends gave to me, the same one who gave me English Oak and Hazelnut fragrance. She has one of the largest fragrance collections and she loves collecting fragrances, but I loved this scent when I worked at Nordstrom, and then I was at her place for her birthday. I was like, oh my goodness, I love that scent. She's like, you do? Take this. I don't want it. And I'm like, are you sure? She's like, I have plenty of fragrances. Take it. Aura by Thierry Mugler. Oh my goodness. It is a, oh my goodness. It's somewhere between floral and gourmand. I believe this is another one that does have a little bit of a chocolatey note to it. For me, this is like the perfect fall date night. It's very inviting. It's very comforting. It has a sweetness. There's a little bit of a muskiness to it. It's one that is not overtly strong. If you just give yourself one, maybe two sprays, if you get crazy, it's gonna smell very, very intense. This is another one I generally like spray once and then I'll spray another one in the air and walk through it. Not one I use a lot because I mean, just with the last few years and how everything's been, there haven't been a lot of date nights, and now with traveling back and forth between Virginia while my mom's going through her treatment, I haven't been wearing a ton of fragrances, but this is really good. Next, we have a scent that my husband gave me last year for Christmas, and I love it. This is like the perfect late fall going into winter date night fragrance. This is, I don't even know how to pronounce it. Le Inter I don't know, but it's by Givenchy. If I'm not mistaken, this is the Rouge edition. Oh my goodness, this is every bit. It's a very kind of seductive, sweet, slightly gourmand scent. It has some floral notes to it, but it also has this kind of element of like a baked good. Like, I'm not normally one for an overly foodie scent, but this has a little bit of a baked sweetness to it mixed with some musky vanilla notes. It also has a kind of like a sliver of a lipstick scent, kind of like lipstick on. I really enjoy this, and their gourmand aspect of this reminds me of another scent that we will talk about as a duo because they were gifted to me last Valentine's Day by my husband. These are both from Tom Ford. The first one we're going to talk about reminds me of the one that he gave me from Givenchy, Ford Lost Cherry. Just perfection. When he gave this to me, he gave me the duo that came with the candle. Oh my goodness. This will now forever remind me of Valentine's Day because that's when he gave these to me. And there's a sweet scent. It almost reminds me of that children's cherry cough syrup, which had a little bit of an artificial cherry scent to it, but it had a sweetness to it. I always enjoyed it. And the candle smells like the scent of the spray-on fragrance is less intense, but oh my goodness, it's like this warm, sugary, artificial cherry. There's a little bit of like a vanilla kind of feeling to it, and in a way, it almost smells similar to this. This is definitely more gourmand than the Givenchy. It does not have the lipstick notes feeling that the lipstick on by Replica does. It's just so good. I don't wear this a ton because it's a scent that on me, I either really like it or I don't like it. He also gave me this other scent, Ford's Rose Prick. Oh my goodness, this is everything. There are some of those more masculine notes. There's like leather. Something about the leatheriness of this smell reminds me of walking into a Bottega Veneta boutique because, you know, they're known for their leather goods. It has like a very clean, leathery scent, but there's also a soft powderiness to it. There's some rose in it, and I'm making my way through it. Something I really like about Tom Ford scents is I can spray one spray either on my person or walk through it, and it gives you a scent that lasts all day. This is just so good. It also definitely has a rose to it, so it's like a leathery powder rose, and I really enjoy it. And it's one that when I wear it, it kind of melds and melts into my skin, mixes with the oils of my skin. It's almost like a me but better smell once it mixes in. I really love this, and I dread how expensive the full sizes of these are, but it might be one I pick up in the future. We will see. It's just really good. I also have the candle version of Rose Prick in my bedroom. It's an okay one. I find the candle version, it's very weird because if you're very close to it, you don't really notice the smell. A room away from it, it's like, oh my goodness, this is the most intense smell ever. So it's a fragrance that I almost like smelling the unlit wax more than I do burning the actual candle, but the fragrance version is just perfection. A fragrance I picked up at the beginning of this year. It was a limited edition. I normally don't buy fragrances online because I don't like a lot of fragrances. When I read the fragrance description of this, I saw it was limited edition. I took a chance and I ordered it. Oh my goodness, I am so glad I ordered it, and I wish it wasn't limited edition because it's so good. From Jo Malone, Rose Blush Cologne, late winter or spring rose floral collection. The most beautiful, bright rose scent. It's almost like you mixed a fresh rose that just bloomed, like almost like grape or like strawberry to it. It's a very soft, sweet floral that is almost undetectable, but it's not a pure rose. There is a subtle amount of musk, but not much. It's a very, very low level of musk. It's almost like a silky rose scent. It's just so, so beautiful. It looks like I never wear this, but I wear this quite a bit. It doesn't have a ton of projection. It sits very close to the body. It is definitely a rose scent. I really, really enjoy this and I love wearing it. This is one, since it was a limited edition and the bottle isn't as big as the regular Jo Malone bottles, I limit to one spray. It lingers with me through most of the day. My most recent fragrance purchase, which I've talked about in a video recently, one I smelt on a whim after reading about it, and I smelled this for the first time at Ulta in Buffalo, New York on the way back home to Toronto. Chloe. I love Chloe's bags, and that was what first attracted to this. If I'm not mistaken, this shape is very similar to the Chloe Faye bag, which I really want. Several of my friends who are more so into designer bags than I am, they all say that Chloe quality isn't that great, but I would love a gray Chloe Faye bag. But this scent, oh my goodness. It is floral, it is musky, there's some powderiness to it, fairly androgynous, as it doesn't, to me, in my opinion, it doesn't smell overtly feminine, doesn't smell overtly masculine. There's no traces of anything like gourmand. It's like a really good blend of floral, musk, and powder. I've used this quite liberally. This is one I can do like 2 sprays of, and I really, really enjoy it. And I'm not normally a body spray person, but year before last, me and one of my friends, actually my friend who gave me the Jo Malone and the Mugler fragrance, we went to an Estee Lauder company warehouse sale, and these body sprays were like really affordable. If I'm not mistaken, I got this one for like $10, the Donna Karan Cashmere Mist body spray, and it just reminds me of being a kid. I was born in 1990, and in the 90s was kind of like when Cashmere Mist had its big heyday, and I think, no, was it just called Cashmere and then Cashmere Mist was a flanker that came later on? This just reminds me of like my mom, my cousins, my Grammy. It's just a very familiar, clean, shower fresh, powdery scent. I remember my mom and Grammy, they used to use the Estee Lauder Beautiful body powder, and Beautiful is a very distinct floral scent, and this one reminds me of how they smelled after like they powdered and got dressed for the day and they were just kind of rummaging around the house. I love it so much. And then I've got 2 from Tom Ford. I believe these were $25 at the sale, which for Tom Ford, that is a great price point. The first one we're going to talk about is Tom Ford Black Orchid. I have almost bought the Black Orchid fragrance several times, and you know, having this, it is less intense than the Eau de Parfum or Eau de Toilette, whatever it is, of the Tom Ford Black Orchid, but this is a strong floral. It does have a very sharp powdery note to me. I just don't wear it a lot, and spending $25 on this saved me a lot of money from not buying the full-size bottle. Very similar with the other one I have, which is Soleil Blanc. I've tried so many times to like this. This is a fresh, summery scent. Like, I feel like it's got a very sharp, almost banana boat sunscreen sharpness to it, mixed with a powdery scent, a touch of an aquatic scent. I don't like it. It reminds me, when I put it on, it's like I just sprayed myself off with like off bug spray. I just need to give this to someone because I don't like it. I normally don't buy a lot of travel size makeup products because they're normally not a good value, especially when you compare size per gram, mil, whatever it is. You're normally much better to buy a fragrance in a full size bottle because it just makes more sense overall. Fragrances though, if I'm really unsure and there's a fragrance I smell in store, I try it on, and it's a really polarizing scent that I can't make up my mind about, I will buy the travel size. First one I don't wear very often. I'm kind of saving it for the right occasion. I haven't seen it in store recently, so I hope it wasn't discontinued. Gucci Memoir. This is a really lovely slight bit of brightness to it. It's got a touch of aquaticness to it, but there's also a bit of a powdery floral note to it, which I really like about this. I bought this, it was either the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020. My husband and I, we were planning our wedding and we didn't know that there was a pandemic coming and travel would shut down the world, and it would shut down the world for what felt like 2 years. We were planning our destination wedding to Hawaii, and this was going to be my wedding scent. I did wear it the day we got married. We ended up just getting married at City Hall here in Toronto, and I wore this that day, and I wear it like on anniversary date nights. But yeah, this always, it's bittersweet. Like, it's such a great memory. It's the fragrance I wore the day I got married. It's very unique compared to other things I wear, but it also reminds me that I didn't go to Hawaii for my destination wedding, so that made me a little mixed. But overall, it's a beautiful fragrance that has great memories, and if you are looking for a special occasion that isn't too powerful, I feel like give this a go. Of the Maison Margiela replica fragrances, we'll talk about my least favorite first. It looks like I've used a lot more, but I know where this was used. This is called Jazz Club. This is a very warm, smoky, kind of oaky scent. Smoky oaky, look at me rhyming. It's very like alpha, male, masculine smelling, and this was one that lived in my bag in aesthetic school, and one of my friends really enjoyed it. I should have just given the bottle to her, but every day she'd be like, can I see that? Like, we would be leaving class. She's like, can I spray myself with that? So I know she used most of this, and she was probably the last person to use this. So this is another one I'm gonna pass on to a friend because I don't like it, and it's very, very heavy, and it's one that gives me a headache. Next, we have two that I really, really love, and once again, it looks like I don't use them much, but with these, I just kind of do like a 1-2. And the one I love the most between the two is this one called Matcha Meditation. Oh my goodness. It's a bright floral. For me, it just smells like a fresh spring day. It's very light, it's very green, it's very happy. It's not as floral or powdery as some of the ones I go for, but you know, if I go through this, I would definitely consider getting a full-size bottle. It's very nice, it's very light, it's not an offensive or overpowering smell. I just really, really love this. And the other one I have, which is one that's in my kind of current rotation that lives in my bag, is the scent Autumn Vibes. This is everything. It's like somehow they mix together like a warm apple cider with fall air, leaves. It's just a new pair of Ugg boots. It's just all those warm, cozy fragrances that make you think about fall encapsulated in a fragrance. I really love this. And now that I'm smelling it, why does it smell like a new pair of Ugg boots? I also feel like I'm one of the very few people who buys Ugg boots still. I mean, I don't wear them outside. They are like my winter indoor slipper, but I love them and they're so comfy for around the house. Never to be seen by the light of day though. Yeah, this smells like a new pair of Ugg boots. And I love it. This is just perfect. Autumn Vibe is the perfect name for it, and I just really enjoy this. Next, we have one from the brand Clean Reserve, and this is Skin. I remember when I was looking for a fragrance to part of my like get ready routine before aesthetics school, I was looking for something I could spray on really lightly that wouldn't be offensive in the treatment room, and I bought this, and it's not, there's nothing skin-like about it. It's like a bright floral that I don't like, and I'm gonna declutter. I did not expect to declutter anything in this video. Fascinating. Also from Clean, this is called Clean Cashmere. This little bottle was a Sephora 100 point perk when I worked at Sephora, so we are going back to like 2016 at least. Oh my god, it still has a smell like so good. Clean Cashmere, if we're talking about scent memory, this smells like when I was a kid and I would go shopping for clothes for church with my Grammy. I remember there was a few places that we went to. There was a lot of times we would just go to like Belk or Macy's. I think at that point Macy's was Hex, a different department store, we would always look at sweaters and stuff like that. And I always like, even now as an adult, I mean, I'm wearing a sweater now. I've always loved sweaters. And if I'm smelling this and describing it, it is a brand new, freshly folded, pale buttercup yellow sweater. That's Cashmere. So good. I think this is limited edition or something because I've not seen it since I moved to Canada. I will cherish this little thing forever. I never wear it. I just kind of open it and smell it here and there. My friend who gifts me fragrances, she gifted me the one from Loewe, and this is Paula's Ibiza? I think that's what it's called. I don't know. I remember she gave it to me because she found it at work on sale and it had a mermaid, and I love mermaids. And it's, once again, it's a bright floral beachy scent. Not my favorite. Oh wow. Really not a favorite of mine. Wow, I didn't know this was from the handy little handheld fan I got for drying off setting spray. I am so sorry, friend. This is not a favorite. And now I'm using my handheld fan to make it go away. One I keep wearing a lot, and I'm making my way through it. This is from a brand called By Rosie Jane. I believe the scent is just called Rosie. So good. So good. This is what I wanted the clean skin to smell like. This smells like clean, fresh skin, softly floral. Like, it's a little floral. This is another one that's lived in my bag, my last three. And these are from a brand I really would like to get more into because I've really enjoyed these. And the brand is Juliette Has a Gun. I've got 3 of their travel sprays. We'll go within the order I purchased them. My very first one, which is still my favorite, and I've made it over halfway through, and it's called Not A Perfume. It is a faux or synthetic ambergris fragrance. This is a skin scent. Like, if you are more than like arm's length away from a person, you are not gonna smell this. Honestly, this is more of like a fragrance that you can only really smell if you like spray on your wrist and then smell it, or if you hug someone and they're wearing it or you're wearing it. Very soft. It's very easy to wear. I'm definitely gonna put this in my travel bag because I love this so much. If you're someone who is not into fragrances, or you find a lot of fragrances hard to wear, I feel like this would be a good one to check out. Next one I purchased, which is actually one of my husband's favorite scents. Like, think of all the fragrances I have. This is the one he compliments me the most when I wear, and I know for him, this triggers a lot of like warm, happy childhood memories. This is Juliette Has a Gun's Sunny Side Up. It's a warm, bright scent. It's cozy, it's cheerful. There is a little bit of like a powdery or musk scent to it. I know one of the notes is either like egg yolk or something like that. I don't pick up anything eggy, but I think fragrance eggs are in it. It's a very warm, cozy, inviting scent. It's really good. If that's something like my husband likes to smell, then it will stay in my routine because a lot of fragrances he isn't a fan. Now, the most recent one to my collection, and I picked this up right before the Sephora Beauty Insider sale because as much as I love my Juliette Has a Gun Not A Perfume, sometimes I want a little bit more oomph than this. So I picked up the Juliette Has a Gun Super Dose. The name is not an exaggeration. This is a like super duper dose of the regular Juliette Has a Gun. It's very strong, and the first time I wore this, it was right before we went out to meet one of our friends for dinner, and I did a 1-2 spray, called it a day, and I could smell this on the blazer I wore that night going out to dinner to the point where I needed to wash it. When we got in the car, my husband had to like roll down the window. He's like, "What are you wearing? This is super strong. I can taste it." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. It wasn't supposed to be this strong." I have worn this 2 times since then, but this is almost like my Tom Ford Santal blush, just very different ambergris scent where I need to like spray, walk away from, and then walk back through it. It is a potent fragrance, and while I don't dislike it, I won't repurchase it. Right now, at the point of editing, we are about 50 minutes, so we will see what happens when I edit it. It might be a long one, which if it is, it is. And then, yeah, but I hope this was enjoyable for you. I know fragrance videos can be quite polarizing, so if you enjoyed this, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below if you have tried any of these fragrances out, what your thoughts are. What are your favorite fragrances? Do you have anything that just triggers memories that are just so happy and you like to wear them as a fragrance? Let me know in the comment section down below, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye y'all.